In this lesson, we'll be learning about plant-like protists, and in particular, we'll be learning about unicellular algae. And remember, these organisms are not plants, they are protists, and I'll be pointing out the differences between these protists and plants throughout the lesson. But just remember, these are not plants, they are plant-like. So first of all, what is a protist? Scientists have argued through the years about what a protist is and what it isn't. The issue may never be settled. Protists are defined less by what they are and more by what they are not. So the protist kingdom has kind of become almost the junk drawer of life on Earth. They're not plants, they're not animals, and they're not fungi. So they're not members of any of those kingdoms. They don't fit the definition for those, and so they're put in the kingdom Protista. Remember, eukaryote means the cells have a nucleus, and so protists do have a nucleus, but they are not plants, animals, or fungus. They're protists. Plant-like protists are called algae, so this is what we will refer to them as throughout the lesson. So, plant-like protists carry out photosynthesis just like plants. That's why they're plant-like. Plant-like protists carry out photosynthesis, and so do plants. They are all aquatic. They depend on the water. That's important for protists, and that's unlike plants. Some plants can live on land. They use chlorophyll A, B, and C. Plants do not have chlorophyll C. It's a different type of pigment that plants don't have. And so this was a clue that protists were not closely related to plants. There are unicellular algae and multicellular algae. And remember that plants are multicellular, so unicellular algae don't fit the definition of a plant. So that's why they're in kingdom Protista. So we're going to be learning about 4 groups of unicellular algae in this lesson. First, we're going to learn about the euglenophytes. Now, these names are kind of difficult, and when we get to dinoflagellates and diatoms, you'll see that the names could be even more difficult. But these terms here on this slide are what I expect you to remember and what I expect you to refer to the protists as. So euglenophytes are in kingdom Protista. They're phylum Euglenophyta. Euglenophytes have 2 flagella, so that's a cell organelle that can move and that is motile, but no cell wall, unlike plants, which do have a cell wall. So this is why euglenophytes are not plants. Besides the fact that they're only unicellular, they don't have a cell wall. An example of an euglenophyte is Euglena, which is what the phylum was named for. It's a unicellular algae that is very common in ponds and lakes. They are excellent swimmers, powered by their flagella, and they have an eye spot, which helps them detect sunlight for photosynthesis. And they reproduce asexually by binary fission, unlike plants. So here's a euglenophyte. Down in the bottom right corner, you can see that little red spot. That is the eye spot that helps them detect sunlight. And then it's packed full of chloroplasts that help them move through photosynthesis. The next group of plant-like protists is dinoflagellates. They're in kingdom Protista, phylum Pyrophyta, which literally means fire plants. They are about half photosynthetic, and the other half of dinoflagellates live as heterotrophs, meaning they need to eat to obtain energy. So that is definitely unlike plants. Plants are autotrophs, meaning they make their own food using the sunlight. So half dinoflagellates are photosynthetic and the other half are heterotrophic. They reproduce asexually by fission, and they generally have 2 flagella that wrap around the organism in grooves between 2 thick plates of cellulose. So again, this is unique to dinoflagellates. Flagellate refers to the flagella part of them, so they have 2 flagella that wrap around them in grooves. There can be kind of these cylindrical ones or this more spiky one. There's a large variety of dinoflagellates. Some dinoflagellates are luminescent, meaning they give off light, and you may find such bioluminescent bays in Australia and Puerto Rico. And I've personally never been to one, but it would be pretty amazing to see. And that bioluminescent light is caused by these tiny unicellular protists, dinoflagellates. The next group of unicellular algae we'll talk about are the chrysophytes. They're in kingdom Protista, phylum Chrysophyta, which means golden plant. And they're a diverse group of plant-like protists that have gold-colored chloroplasts, so hence their name. Chryso means golden, so they are gold-colored. They're full of bright yellow pigments that give the phylum its name, and then some chrysophytes have cell walls made of carbohydrates rather than cellulose, and plants have cellulose cell walls, so that's another difference between chrysophytes and plants. And they reproduce sexually or asexually. Here's some pictures. You can see definitely that golden color of the chrysophytes. Our last group of unicellular algae are the diatoms. They're in phylum Bacillariophyta, but you don't have to remember that, you just have to remember diatoms. And they produce a thin, delicate cell wall rich in silicon, which is the main ingredient in glass, and they are the most abundant organisms on Earth. Plants don't make cell walls rich in silicon. They're not made of glass, but diatoms are. And this is an example of a wide variety of diatoms that can be found. They're very plentiful in the water. They have these beautiful, delicate silicon cell walls, and these are fairly easy to identify because of their ornate cell walls. So those are the four groups of unicellular algae we're talking about: the euglenophytes, the dinoflagellates, the chrysophytes, and the diatoms.